The graduation address gives us the opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of the alumni community. And we're very fortunate today to have that address being delivered by Mr. John Mooney. Mr. Mooney has devoted more than 55 years to educating thousands of students, teachers, parents, and the wider community. He's currently the principal of Emerson School, a specialist school located in Dandenong. He commenced his career in education in 1966, where he spent the first 6 years teaching in one of two Teacher Victorian rural schools. Mr. Mooney was the inaugural executive officer of the Crongold Centre at Monash University and has been principal of 3 large specialist schools in Frankston, Ashwood, and in his current school, Emerson. He was awarded the Commonwealth Relations Trust Open Fellowship, which allowed him to study his Masters of Arts in Educational Psychology at London University. He has a long professional association with numerous educational associations and societies and has a continuing passion and enthusiasm towards the provision of good options and choices for all students with disabilities and additional needs across all sectors. Mr. Mooney also was awarded the 2019 Distinguished Alumni Award as a recipient for the Faculty of Education in this university. It gives me great pleasure now inviting Mr. John Mooney to deliver the graduation address. Thank you, John.
Deputy Chancellor, distinguished academic staff, graduating students, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. It is a wonderful honour to address this graduation ceremony today. I'd like to congratulate all graduates, both present and in absentia, for your application to your studies and to be present here today, truly present. It is an iconic occasion to celebrate your academic achievement in the presence of your mentors, your family, your friends, and your fellow graduates. It is quite a surreal experience to look back, my graduate friends, on all your hard work. Sometimes you could be alone. Sometimes you could even feel lonely. But persistence and perseverance is the key. There's probably been many moments of success and many moments where you needed to drive yourself towards outcomes despite the many presenting pressures and timelines that confronted you. So this is the moment when you need to be timeless in your life, and you need to know that you have run the race and you have come through with shining colours. There needs to be a smile on your face as you set sail in your future endeavours. You will find yourself aspiring to many goals as part of your personal growth in fields that may change from one time to another. As has been quoted in our graduation booklet today and also mentioned, Sir John Monash said that you should adopt as your fundamental creed that you will equip yourself for life, not solely for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community and the communities in which you will live and circle. So my time at Monash University commenced in 1974. In 1966, 2 weeks before the change to decimal currency, I had started my 4-year teacher preparation at Ballarat Teachers College, which is now known as Federation University. All my great-grandparents had settled in the Ballarat area in the 1840s and 1850s. So I felt that I was from Ballarat, and when I left to come down to Monash, I said I'd be back in 5 years, and I've never made it. It's funny how life unfolds with all its turns. I had spent my first 6 years in education as a headmaster of a little one-room schoolhouse in the Ballarat and the Wimmera areas. Now, this could involve teaching all 7 grades at once. It was during this time that I became familiar with the words, "The joy of serving is the chance of serving more." And as a young person, I didn't really, I think, had the awareness to appreciate it. But I found myself returning to that phrase time and time again from a poem written by a person called Alice in 1931. The joy of serving is the chance of serving more. A lot of people say services can be masochistic or like where you're just sort of devoting yourself aimlessly to other people's needs, but that's not the case. Listen to the writings and the words and the actions of John Monash, and you see that service is one of the most honourable things that one can be if you're not self-absorbed in just oneself, but looking to the needs of the whole community to make the world a better place. To survive teaching in a small country school, one needed to develop a very strong work ethic to ensure that you met the learning needs of all students, as well as participating in the rural community life by being part of sporting teams, practicing with the Country Fire Authority and other pursuits. I learned that you always should do what you can do to make a difference, not just what you have to do. And one should work always to make the job of the person next to you easier. You need to step lightly on the land, not leave large footprints to say, "I was here," but just to make a difference where you're a part of the DNA of the walls of everything you do. In 1974, I was offered a place at the Bachelor of Special Education course, where you had an opportunity to come here on full pay for 2 years and to do things that hadn't been done before. It was a groundbreaking course, typical of Monash, first of its type in Australia, and only 28 places were on offer from the 654 applicants from around Australia. I found out later that I was offered the last place, the 28th place, because I was young and most people in the course were already highly experienced leaders. But I'm so thankful that I had so many people to learn from and to learn with, and that they found me worthy of their consideration. I immersed myself in that 2-year program, and I encourage you all to immerse yourself in the things that you're going to be doing, both now and after today. I lived in a small flat off Blackburn Road, just around the corner, as a single man, little bed sitter, and I was determined to participate in as many aspects of university life as I could. For instance, I loved running around the ring road every night. Maybe twice. I lived in the library. The Matheson Library in those days closed at 11 p.m. Almost every night I went out with the door closing. And I spent an average of 12 hours a week across the road on the squash court. And had the privilege of captaining Monash in the university side in 1977. I felt I wasn't worthy of that role because all the top 3 players developed injuries, and good luck or bad luck, all of a sudden I had to play my first intervarsity and play number 1, which is a pretty tall order. And I won 5 matches and lost 5 matches, and I was so proud of my performance. But I particularly looked at all the students going to that, say, squash club. It was an ideal way of meeting students from other faculties. And I spent hours listening to their studies and their projects and research and theses. We would often adjourn on a Saturday over the Wheelers Hill Hotel with big bags of peanuts and hot chips, and we'd talk for another 2 hours. And we'd virtually do that every Saturday. It was like going on a holiday every weekend. And I have great memories of the non-pretentious friendships that we developed. And I could hear it and I could feel it in the room today. So I've got so many wonderful memories of that period. Lunchtime concerts in this hall too. I fitted as many in as I could. They were free concerts, and I can almost picture myself sitting there, occasionally sometimes relaxing so much that you almost doze off. But to listen to our beautiful music today took me back. It was all coming back to me. In '76, at the age of 27, I was invited to become the Foundation Executive Officer of the Krongol Centre. That involved an arrangement with the Department of Education and Training and the Dean of Education. My reasonable wage at a young age was paid by the Department of Education, and I was responsible to the Dean of the faculty. And this was such a wonderful honour. It was put to me in a room, and I accepted on the spot, because I just knew that, and it was offered to me by a gentleman called Les Emerson, who is the director of all school developments in the state, doing wonderful things. And I happen now to work in the school that bears his name. Once again, it's a circularity to life that happens. And it doesn't matter whether you're 23 or 24 or what your age is, or 54 or 64. You need to be tuned in, your intuition, into the collective consciousness of just what's happening around you. It was during this period that my life's purpose began to crystallize, even though I was relatively young, but not become rigid. But I knew the direction I needed to be heading in. I felt I needed to be a signpost to others, a lighthouse maybe, to show the way. I came to knowledge that good things can happen through my actions, through me, not because of me. And it was a notion of humility that, while I may not have called it humility at the time, that is an essential component to a successful graduate and academic. I learnt that there was a narrow point of view, for instance, could easily lead to ignorance and prejudice, and not be able to listen to the points of view of other people. In '82, I was fortunate to be awarded the Commonwealth Relations Trust Fellowship at London University, and I undertook my studies also in the psychology of education. When I returned, I knew that I wanted to work in the area for students who were experiencing difficulties. I wanted to take the people who were at the bottom of the rung and show that they weren't. I wanted them to know that they had skills and talents that needed to be unlocked. I wanted these students to aspire to gain meaningful employment. And I found out that parents can only be as happy as their saddest child. Parents can only be as happy as their saddest child. I could talk for hours on that topic, but just one little instance came to me as I was walking in this morning, where a mother of a teenage girl who couldn't get her Year 9 student to school, and they were very, very worried about her well-being. And I talked to the family, mum and dad, and to the girl, and we said, "Look, why don't we give it a go?" The person wasn't funded for anything, but had a profile of need that was as large as the sky. I said, let's give it a go. I reckon you might see a reduction in the anxiety and self-harming type behaviours in 3 months. In 3 weeks' time, the mother bounded in the front door into my office. "You were wrong," she said. Didn't take 3 months, it took 3 weeks. Up at 6 o'clock every morning, wanting to get her school stuff together. She's 15, I can't believe it. "You've given me my daughter back." Now, that sounds melodramatic, but the signposts in my life are just filled with those radiant moments, not because of me, but through some of the kindness and the things that I offered. I challenge you graduates to, regardless of one of the 41 courses that you've graduated in today, to think about these things of your contribution. Because you know what? Trust is built up by thousands of sincere actions. But it can be lost in a flash of an inconsidered word. During my 3 years tenure at the Krongol Centre, I worked with 688 students from schools throughout the metropolitan country areas. It was for exceptional children. And if you look at all the definitions of words that are used, the Krongol family, in giving a considerable sum of money, particularly in those days when inflation was running at 19.1%, bank loans were running at 15.2%. It was a lot of money. And I had a sense of responsibility, but we're looking at the kids who just needed an individualised pathway to learning within their local school, whatever school. If they went to the College of the Arts, if they went to McRub High, if they went to a private school, if they went to a Catholic school, wherever they may be. And my mandate was to develop those concepts. And so the centre was committed to, number one, in priority order, academic teaching. Number two, research. And number three, service to the community. And it was my job to make sure that happened. There were 67 people in the Krongol Centre on full wage doing postgraduate studies on full wages, in some cases getting salaries higher than the lecturers. And that caused a bit of a ruckus, and I had to be what one professor called me, the pussyfooting diplomat, to make all things work. And I relish those times where we all were very successful. One of my roles was the development of the gifted and talented programs that commenced in '76, of which I was the coordinator. Places in these after-school courses were highly sought after, just as the programs for students during the day with learning needs and disabilities. They were pursued by all school sectors and systems as an extracurricular addition of excellence to their core programs. However, it was in the area of additional needs and disability that my lifelong focus was to be honed. So in my 55 years that seemed just like yesterday of working in education, you might say, he must have started when he was 3. But no, I'm a little bit on from there in my revolutions around the sun. 48 of them, though, have been dedicated to the areas of additional needs. My philosophy can be described maybe in a number of simple statements. Primary and secondary age students need to be involved in a learning program at local or specialist schools that will unlock their true potential in many curricular areas. Victoria leads the way in Australia in options and choice. It's quite incredible, and I as a national director of the Principals Association of Specialist Schools, a former role that I held, I know the statistics that back up that claim. Number two, students with additional learning needs require good options and choices when parents are selecting the school from which their son or daughter will best benefit. The last 3 days, I've had 15 students refer to me with nowhere to go next year in Year 7. And when I turned my phone off before coming in here, one particular school's getting quite desperate. And they're all of a sudden expecting me to find the answers, which I will. But I exhort everyone to be that type of person, not like me, but like yourself. You have no shoes to fill. You bring your own shoes and you create your own identity. Thirdly, if students are not thriving in their learning programs, they can easily be marginalised and feel alone and apart. And lastly, timely intervention is the key to ensure that students at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels do not experience failure, that it can inflict enduring pain and trauma. So this is my continuing journey, and it will never end. Time is a stubborn illusion, as Einstein said, and it gets in the way sometimes of definitions. So in talking to the graduates sitting in front of me today, let kindness, humility, and generosity be part of everything that you do in your careers that are beckoning you forth. It is important that you be a good listener, and it's important to show your initiative and creativity in everything that you do. With these attributes, you will make every place in which you strive and work to be a better space for everyone. So congratulations to all graduates. Your family, your friends and mentors are very proud of you. So we will continue to support you and encourage you in our thoughts as you commence your life journeys, just as you in turn will support and encourage all those who work with you. So, in conclusion, go out and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, for your reflections on what shaped you here and what shaped you in becoming one of the great educators. So please take on board not just the experiences, but the messages from them. But thanks again, John. Very well said.